Welcome to NBA Tip-Off Thursday edition, Thursday, August 21st. We are live, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, as we are each and every Monday through Friday right here on WagerTalk TV. I'm your host, Steve Merrill, joined by Tony Finn and Rob Vino and Ski Profit. He's in the wings waiting to come on as well. And Tony, we got to figure out, you guys had an over-under bet last night. I don't remember which in-show who had what, but I
had one with Teddy.
Sorry. That was the over under props. You had +3 because you gave Ski a good number, as you always do as a gentleman, and it did not matter. In fact, I know exactly what you had now. It's coming back to me as I speak. You had the Jazz and didn't even need the points, right? That was a nice outright.
I didn't think I did. I just said they went outright, and although that was about the only thing I was right about.
Oh, unfortunate.
That's about the only.
Well, I will say, what were you on, a 13-2 or 14-1 run or something like that?
Well, I'm on a.
It was 12.
15, yeah, I'm 15-5 now. After that, so as long as I'm not horrible, I should be 500 by Christmas.
I'm trying to catch you because I had a 1-1 night, yet I'm still 14-5 over the past week and a half. So, like we've said, we're not going to win every night.
I was 2-2, but I lost. I went 1-2 in hoops, so which was disappointing because not because I went 1-2, but because I feel like maybe I'm wrong. I'm absolutely wrong about Philly. I'm pretty concerned about Philly.
Yeah, and we'll pop Mid-Major Matt on. Mid-Major Matt told us on Twitter last night, Matt Joseph, that he's going back to his prediction, Sixers in 2. So we'll see if they concede tomorrow before Game 3. Hey, look who didn't concede. Ski Profit's back. Ski, Tony thought you'd run off to get his Sawbucks, but I said we were going to do it on credit only. So the Denver Nuggets did not show up, Ski, yesterday. What are your thoughts on that series?
They did not. My thoughts on that series, I still like Denver, but what I think about is Mitchell looks a lot better without Conley over there. So when Conley comes back, it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Excellent point. I mean, Mitchell, is considered a new superstar now. We've seen, Tatum for the Celtics, Mitchell for the Jazz. A lot of these young guys stepping up here in the playoffs. Luka, of course, in his first 2 setting records, but not a surprise there. Rob Vino, what are your thoughts on Thursday overall? Jazz, any other series? What caught your eye? Your Sixers, your Pennsylvania boys had a tough time showing up once again.
Yeah, I'd rather you didn't call them my Sixers. I don't come from these parts. I don't root for these guys. Last night I was rooting for them, though. I mean, again, I had them a couple of weeks ago inside the bubble, and then I came on the show and proceeded to tell everybody how I knew the night before it was the wrong play, and I played it anyway and smashed my head against a brick wall, and I did it again. And you keep expecting Philadelphia to do something, to show some sense of urgency, and last night they showed none. To be in southeastern Pennsylvania today, guys, and to hear the talk radio barrage of irate fans with everybody, and somebody we haven't talked about here on the show. We blame Brett Brown, we blame the players individually and collectively, but the fans want this owner gone. Here for making some real poor decisions from GM to coach right on down the line. So, it's that series. Philadelphia doesn't, if it was Game 3 and Philadelphia was coming back here to the Wells Fargo Center to play a Game 3, I might think a little bit differently. But this looks like a team that, can't win without a home crowd. And that just tells me they're not very good. And the lack of effort last night was just pathetic. So, to me, that series had a chance to be close. It's not even close. Boston, maybe Brad Stevens is out coaching Brett Brown too, right? There's a million things we could point to. It's been miserable. Denver's defense didn't show up yesterday. We'll see. I'd love to see them ski if they had Gary Harris and Will Barton, a full complement of their players. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's going crazy in this series. But Gary Harris is the best perimeter defender on that team, and it might be a little bit different. We know what Harris has done to Damian Lillard in the past. So without him, maybe Mitchell continues on, and that just keeps being a high-scoring series.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're going to touch more on that game tomorrow. They do get a day off. And, what's interesting to me, guys, just kind of recapping it, is that if this was a normal scenario, they'd be returning home for Game 3. We always see the home teams get a huge bump in Game 3 when they're down 0-2. We've talked about it here on the show. Often an extra 2-3 points in the line. The odds makers favor that home team. And it really would have been interesting with the Sixers because, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, the one team that jumped out to me for home-road dichotomy more than any was the Sixers. They came into the bubble 29-2 at home this year, 10-24 on the road. And now they don't have the benefit of returning home for Game 3, and they're still on a neutral court. So would have been maybe a different situation if they were playing home courts, but it looks like they're in some trouble. We'll talk on that one more. First, let me throw it to the game we have in action here. Tony Finn, you love in-game wagering.
I do.
Do you have anything on this early game today? We touched on the Heat Pacers yesterday on the way out of the show. Right now, the Heat are up by about 12, and that's early fourth quarter. We talked about, and Teddy in particular mentioned that he thought the Heat were going to run away with this series. It looks like they're doing so now.
I don't have anything in game because being an early game like this, I typically, unless I release the overnight last night, I won't release this early of a game during the week, a weekday, should I say, to clients. So I played it though. So I did play it. I didn't touch it. I saw the halftime numbers and decided that I would stay with what I had, which was I got 3.5 in that, and nice. I just kept it, and I believe wholeheartedly. I looked last night, guys, and I tried to talk myself out of Miami, and I could not do it. I couldn't talk myself out. The fact that this game was fairly close, really, the reason this Heat won by 12, game one, was a couple late threes by Butler, of all people who hadn't made a three since what, March? Well, okay, that's a little. I mean, that sounds like a long time ago. It really wasn't. It was yesterday. In our world. So, but still, I made a sarcastic remark one time on the show about Miami not taking any three. Why can't Butler shoot a three? And you guys started telling me how they were taking more threes than anybody. And then I just said, okay, guys, obviously you didn't know, you didn't know that gullible wasn't a word.
Okay, yeah, Butler's definitely one of your guys, though. He was listening to the show, obviously. I'm glad to see we're motivating some NBA players here on NBA Tip-Off. Ski, what were your thoughts on this daytime game? Anything jump out at you?
Yeah, I talked about it yesterday. I was on the Heat over, and Tony was on the under last time, and I lost by a point. So we have Oladipo. We'll see if he can make the difference at the end of the game for the Pacers. I'm not watching right now, but I have the over 215 as my free play.
Yeah, I was going to say it's at 180 here with about 8.5 minutes to go. I would say that's probably right on pace. What are your thoughts, Rob?
Yeah, it was too close for me either way. Miami's it's a team, again, that we talked about perhaps coming out of the East if Milwaukee was to falter. Miami's very deep, very talented, especially when Dragic is on and that second unit is rolling. Tony talked about Jimmy Butler hitting some clutch threes. It's clutch time. Jimmy Butler's made for that. So they've got all the components. I just thought that Indiana, as tough as they are, might be able to hang around today. Hasn't shown up so far. And if it doesn't show up here, perhaps Teddy's right. I mean, as I see it, there's nobody hotter on the planet right now in the NBA than TC. He had another good night yesterday. So maybe he's correct about Miami running rampant through this series.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about before that started, we would not be surprised to see more sweeps, see more teams kind of out of it early because they don't have the benefit of returning to home court, and that's going to be the case for the Pacers as well. They're not going to get that big bump by going game 3 home in front of those strong Indiana fans. No question that's a tough situation now for the Pacers or the Sixers down 0-2. Let's look at the game that hasn't started yet, guys, because it goes here in about 20 minutes, so it's a good one to talk about for all those viewers watching this live. And, of course, that's the benefit for watching this show live Monday through Friday. We're live 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. Not only can you engage with us on the live chat, answer any questions you might have, but you're also getting daytime action each and every weekday here with the NBA playoffs for several months. And we do have a game that's going in about 20 minutes. Thunder, Rockets. I want to let everybody know I'll keep it simple on my side. I've got a best bet on this game. It's at WagerTalk.com right now. So if they want a best bet for myself, Steve Merrill, go to WagerTalk. Tony Finn, you got anything? You looking at anything here in Thunder, Rockets?
I do. I have a play on this game as well.
Nice.
I have a play on this game, and I have a play on Milwaukee, Orlando. I stayed away from the best bet, which was fading the Lakers, because I just didn't want to upset Ski too much today.
I was tempted to go with the Lakers again, and as Teddy's often said on the show, when something doesn't play out anywhere close to what you thought it would in game one, or in any game, but I still personally lean towards the Lakers there. We'll get to that one in a little bit, obviously. Ski, what are your thoughts on this day game? Right now, the Rockets are a 2-point favorite. It's held pretty steady. I haven't seen much movement there. Totals maybe dropped a little bit, 226 range now.
Well, I would say, what is the spread?
Rockets -2. I haven't seen much movement on that.
No.
Okay.
No. -130, -2, whatever you want.
I wouldn't expect the same type of thing that you saw from OKC this time around. I heard Chris Paul say that they pretty much were not prepared for the zone, or they see a team do something all year long and then they change it up. They weren't ready, so I think they'll be ready this game.
Yeah, and Rob, I mean, we talked about game one. The Thunder opened as a slight favorite. It was -1. And then we did the show. It was pick 'em. They even closed as a 1-point dog. Now they're a 2-point dog. So the odds makers are not pricing in the zigzag, I guess, as we've talked about on this show.
No, I guess they're expecting Oklahoma City to show up here, or maybe, bettors, I think, moved the line, Steve. The odds makers opened it kind of the same, and then bettors pushed it towards Houston. So the early money expected Houston to come back out. If you just analyze that first game, a couple of things I picked up on right away. There's no way you play the Houston Rockets and don't enter that game with the thought process that you have to make it to 120. Yet Billy Donovan and the Oklahoma City Thunder kind of played that slow, methodical walk-up style. And, Houston had a lousy first quarter, guys, and they still wound up with 28 points and an 8-point lead in a game that Oklahoma City wanted to play. It reminds me, if I could use a football analogy real quick, it reminds me of teams that play these air raid offenses and think, wow, we'll control the clock and we'll shorten possessions. And they take 13 plays and they go down and kick a field goal and 3 cheers for them. And the other team goes 4 plays, 77 yards, touchdown, 7-3, you're losing. So what good did your time control do you? It did you no good. I think Oklahoma City, the guards played absolutely miserable the other night. I'll leave Chris Paul out of that, but if I can include Gilgeous-Alexander and Schroeder, those guys combined had 15 points. It's not good enough. Dennis Schroeder has had a he's had big days against Houston this year because the matchups favor him when the 3 guards are on the floor, but it didn't work out. He's 3 of 12 the other night. I would expect those numbers to reverse. I would think OKC will run when available and push tempo when available and go a little quicker than they did because I think that's better for them. But Houston's got so many 3-point weapons, guys. We saw it the other night again. If one guy doesn't hit, the other guy does. House will hit. Gordon didn't even shoot well from 3, but they used him as the penetrator instead of Russell Westbrook. Gordon was going to the hole the other night, kind of taking Westbrook's place. It worked out well. Harden didn't make it to the free throw line because OKC didn't want him to, but he still produced 37 points. So I just don't know how you stop Houston. For OKC to win, I think they have to pick it up and go a little more and outscore this team.
What are your thoughts, Ski?
No, I just wanted to, I know we don't have Teddy here, so in honor of Teddy, I was going to throw in a quote. A while back in the season, Billy Donovan said, "We're a better team when we play faster." So that's what they want to try to do, and so I agree with everything.
Did you guys watch this game? I watched.
Yeah.
I replayed it and watched it. Okay. No matter what, first off, no matter what OKC did, they were always a step. They were always a step behind Houston in transition. Always, and if Houston does, I think we'll all agree, Houston's not a great defensive team. They're not a good defensive team, but the one thing they do really well is they prevent transition. They do a very good job of not allowing that. You're not going to get an easy bucket. You're going to get bumped. You're going to get somebody's. Westbrook's going to spit in your face. Something's going to happen when you're shooting the ball that's going to be irritating. And you're right. OKC don't they have to go? Don't they have to? Do you believe Donovan should be? You read the quote, or you guys know that Donovan said, "Listen, we're not going to foul them from out beyond the arc, and we're so essentially we're not going to challenge them." 52 shots, 38 shots unchallenged.
Yeah, and what jumped out to me, guys, was the 68 points Oklahoma City allowed in the first half. So I think the big question is, did they just come out flat in that first playoff game? Do they carry some better play from the second half over? And it's hard to slow down a fast team. The key in college basketball is when those slow teams can slow down a fast team. Yeah. OKC's not looking to do that here. So it's really a question of who can play that tempo better, and the Rockets love to play it. I'll tell you what, Tony Finn, once again, best bet. Steve Merrill, best bet. We both have best bets on this game. Get them both.
Yeah, why not?
WagerTalk.com. What do you?
If Missy was around, or Johnny, I'd say we'll give him a coupon code, and we could get, if you bought Tony's 1-year package, you get Steve's game for free.
And what I should have done too is that we should have benefited the live viewers here by having one, since this game goes in about 15 minutes for all the live viewers. We have almost 200 of them in the room right now. WagerTalk.com. Tony Finn, 15-5 run. I'm on a 14-5 run, so not a bad idea to cash in. And Ski and Rob, you guys got some strong best bets up there for tonight as well. Ski, of course, does NBA and WNBA. We've talked about on the show some nice edges there in the women's league as well. And then Rob does baseball and basketball, as do I and Tony. So once again, WagerTalk.com for all of our best bets tonight. Speaking of a night game, let's get to that early evening game, the Orlando-Milwaukee game, and then we have Portland-LA. Two games I'm really excited to talk about here. I mean, uncharted territory, guys. The one seeds both lost, especially for Milwaukee. It went off about a 14-point favorite. Orlando was about 9-1 on the money line. I even saw them almost as high as 10-1 at some sports books to win outright in game one. I did the math the other day, guys. If you did a Blazers, in honor of Teddy once again, a Blazers Magic 2-team money line parlay would have paid 24-1 the other night on just game one itself.
I need more than that for that damn parlay.
Yeah, I would have needed more than that too. I don't think we would have had any takers. I like the Lakers. It doesn't surprise me at all that Portland won that game and that LA came out flat and that Portland carried the momentum. I got to admit, I was a little surprised to see the Magic win outright as a 14-point dog. Ski, how do you handicap this one? The first thing that jumped out to me, and I touched on this yesterday, guys, is that both lines opened a couple points shorter than the game one lines, which I found surprising because if anything, you look for a bounce back. The Laker line is back up to that level. It quickly went back from 5.5 to 6.5. But Tony, on that, it stayed at 12.5. The Bucks still, right? I mean,
I was going to mention. I think that's you really see where the odds makers where they're sharp, really sharp, not just a little bit sharp, but really sharp. And that is, you got a Lakers team that I never felt like they were going to win that game. It's not like they pulled away or challenged they did what they had to do to keep it close, but they always seem to step behind as well, behind Portland a little. And you saw the Clippers win a coin flip in game one. Essentially, if they don't hit that, really, I cover that team too. We're late 6, we win by 8, but there was a chance that we don't. There was a chance not to cover that game. Obviously.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But now we see the Clippers go from being a 6.5-point favorite to a 4-point favorite. Now they back up. Now the Lakers lose and the Lakers move forward. Now, we know there's no home court. There's no game 3. There's no. In my world, first off, home court it doesn't mean much in the NBA. What means a lot is travel. It's travel. So you got here's what it is. Lakers are public as hell. I don't care. The Clippers are a better team. They're a deeper team. They're a better team, I think. Lakers are public as hell. There's not one drop of value. Not one dime of value on the Lakers. Am I wrong?
Yeah, well, Ski, it is interesting that the Clippers line is shorter off a bad performance because I always like to look for Class A teams to bounce back. So, I mean, what are your general thoughts on these line moves? And do you trust the Bucks at minus 12.5 here? You're actually, I don't want to say value, but you're getting a cheaper line than you would have in game one, Ski.
I agree with what Tony said about the Clippers and the Lakers. Besides the fact that the Clippers are better. And as far as this, I know
I got off straight. I'm going
to throw it to you last, game. Tony. It's okay.
What a shocker!
On this Magic and Bucks game, I have to look like Orlando. Early in the season, they were playing slower, but lately they were playing faster. And I look at them off of a win. They went over their last 11. I look at the Milwaukee Bucks. I think about how they should play. I think they perform pretty poor offensively, and although I think they play better defensively too, I think it's a faster paced game. Bucks play at the fastest pace in the league. I think there's a lot of points to be had. I like the
looking at the total there. I like it. Right now I'm seeing about 227. There's some 226 and a halves out there though on the total. Not too much movement. And once again, the Bucks are pretty much a solid 12.5 point favorite. That's where it's been for about a day now. Rob, one thing I mentioned yesterday, I want to mention again for if we have any new viewers, but one thing that jumped out to me about both the 1 seeds losing the other night is there's no question they came out flat. And that's what we thought might happen when they had very little to play for during the 8-game bubble. They both only had to win like 1 game out of 8 to basically lock up the 1 seed. And that's pretty much all they did. But the Bucks got outscored by 10 in the first quarter, only got outscored by 2 the last 3 quarters. Still got outplayed, though, in those quarters. The Lakers, though, is what jumped out to me. They got outscored by 11 in the first quarter. They actually outscored Portland by 4 the last 3 quarters. So, you can make an argument that they just both came out really flat. Do you trust Milwaukee here, Rob, to turn things on here in game 2 and maybe get out of that funk?
Yeah, I think it's easy to assume that when a 1 seed loses or a favorite loses an opening game to say that they were flat. Maybe they were. Maybe the other team was just better on that day. I mean, Milwaukee, to me, they got right back in that game, right, guys? They had closed to within 3 points, and only to watch Orlando open it right back up again. So there's something wrong with Milwaukee defensively at this point in time. I mean, when you make that kind of a comeback and you get right to the stage where you're going to take the lead and you're the huge double-digit favorite and you can't take the lead and you fall behind by even more, there's something wrong. I don't think, just to touch back, because I wanted to start with what Ski was talking about with the total. I keep a statistic that I call potential points scored. It's if every single shot in the game went in the basket, how many points would have been scored in that game. This Orlando-Milwaukee game had the highest number of potential points. 488 points would have been scored if every basket, every three-pointer, every free throw went in. So to piggyback on Ski, there's plenty of room for points there. Where are the points going to come from? It's probably coming from the Milwaukee side here because they're the team that shot lousy. 33%, 14 of 42 from 3. They're predicated on 3-point shooting. 14 of 42 has to improve. 43.3 from the field, miserable. I think there's a ton of room for offensive improvement in Milwaukee. And again, Orlando heading into game 1, Steve Clifford and company said they knew they were going to get open shots against this team. They knew offensively they could find good looks. They just had to make them. They made them. They'll probably find good looks again. I know as the series goes on, teams defend a different way. They kind of feel you out, and then we adjust during the series. But Milwaukee seemed awfully confident to me, Steve, that they could get good shots up, and I didn't see Milwaukee stopping any, especially from Vucevic in the middle, who absolutely shredded this team. Brook Lopez, not necessarily a defensive deterrent. I'd lean towards what Ski said and play this thing over. We'll see if Milwaukee can assert themselves, but they do not look like the number 1 defensive efficiency team whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Bucks too, the technical best team in the NBA in the regular season shot just 43%, and they still put up 110 points. So, as you said, Rob, 232 points scored. It went over the 225, and they still didn't shoot well. So there's a lot of potential for it to go over the 226.5, and both Ski and Rob leaning towards the over here on the show. So those of you watching us live or watching us before this game tips at 6 Eastern, got a little bit of a lean there on the over-under. You can do as you like with it. Tony, I don't want you to give away too much. You've got a best bet on this game. And once again, he's also got a best bet on the game. It's about to tip, as do I, Thunder Rockets. So once again, go over to WagerTalk.com right now. All those of you watching us live, get a strong best bet for the daytime game on Thunder Rockets. Tony, just give us some general thoughts here on this Magic and Bucks game and how you handicap a team that just lost almost in historic portions in game 1.
Yeah, I watched this game more than once because I tried to pick out a few variables that were different. What was different about this Bucks team than they were in the bubble? And in truth, there wasn't a whole lot of difference. And much like I said about the Lakers yesterday, there wasn't a whole lot of difference. And they responded and played like they played. The old adage, you play like you practice. Well, I don't know how they practiced, but if those were practice games, that's exactly how they played. And Steve Clifford did a really good job with the Freak. And what he put Clark. He put Clark in one spot, and he said, do not take the right, left, don't do anything. The Greek has an issue going through people and making that kind of drive. He looks for a lane. So Clark, I mean, he made the Freak stop and make a decision. What am I going to do? And that little thing, really, the Greek got his points. He did. He got his points. What did he get? 31-17. Was that his numbers? I don't remember now. 31-17, something like that. It was the rest of Milwaukee, the rest of the crew there that really didn't do much. And I to the total in this, I kind of had some feelings on that too. But if you watch that game, I never thought that game had a chance to go under. Never had, not especially when Orlando jumped out to and shot what they made their first 8 or 9 shots, whatever it was, and built that big lead and forced Milwaukee to kind of change their attitude and their pace a little bit, even though it was early. And this game only went 7 points over the total. It went 132, if I'm not mistaken, or 232, if I'm not mistaken. So it was partly to Milwaukee shooting, but if they're going to pack the lane, if Orlando's going to pack the paint like this and make the freak shoot shots from the outside and or charge, and he is guilty of his fair charges during the season. If you'll look at it, and this is playoff ball, so he may not get some of those calls. But I found the game really interesting. I don't. If you looked at the regular season game matchups between these two, they never broke 225. They never exceeded 225 ever in those games. Orlando didn't score 100 twice. So where the hell is that Milwaukee defense?
What do you think, Rob? Does the Milwaukee defense show up?
I'm not sure. I mean, it could show up in spurts. Maybe they get a charge and they come out the first quarter and take a lead. But even in that scenario, guys, if Milwaukee's off to the races offensively today, the cheap points that happen in those style of games are immense. And Orlando, I think Ski said it, or maybe Tony said it, is a different style offensive team than they were back when they were only grinding out 90, 95 points a game. They said in the bubble that the 3-point shot was going to be a huge part of their arsenal going forward, and they're making good on it. I don't think Milwaukee was ready for it. And to Tony's point about Gary Clark and the Orlando Magic making the Greek Freak make decisions in the paint, it's no different than what Toronto did to them. They formed that picket line in the paint and said, listen, beat us from outside. And therefore, it falls on these other guys. Eric Bledsoe, once again, guys, 1 for 5 from 3-point range. Eric Bledsoe's been a nightmare in the playoffs shooting from long range. He's got to shape up. But they have a host of guys. It's what Budenholzer preaches, 3-point shooting. When he took the job from Jason Kidd, it's really the only switch he made. He gave everybody the green light to shoot threes, spread the floor and shoot threes. And they didn't do it in game 1. They need to do it in game 2. I happen to think they'll shoot better than they did in that first game. But until Milwaukee proves differently against that style of defense, that kind of fence across the paint on Giannis, teams are going to continue to do it.
Middleton's got to do more, guys, too. He's got to do more, or they're not going to win. He can't. I mean, he was basically invisible, in my opinion.
You know, what's interesting too, guys, is we keep talking about, does Milwaukee bounce back? The line is cheaper than game 1. You know, they could bounce back and win by 10 or 12 points, a double-digit win, and still not cover. So
right. Absolutely. Right.
No,
I think they only care about winning right now.
Exactly.
I guarantee you.
Yeah, winning by 13 isn't necessarily number one on their priority right now. Money line, by the way, anywhere from minus 950 to 1,000. So you're having to lay almost 1 to 10 on the Bucks outright, which is interesting. This is interesting, though, guys, because that money line was a lot higher, as I mentioned, in game 1, because the Magic were anywhere from 9 to 1 to 10 to 1 to win outright. Now they're only about 6.5 to 1.
Are they still? Is Milwaukee still 6,000 to win?
It was 30. It was minus.
6,000.
So when it started, it was 150 to 1. The other, I mean, it's hard for me to say 1 to 150. So I'll say
60 to 1.
The inverse of 150 to 1. It closed at 200 to 1.
Yeah. And
then yesterday, it was 36 to 1.
Okay.
And Orlando, the take back on Orlando was 18 to 1. So
I thought I saw my 6,000. I said,
yeah, I looked offshore.
I only have some of that.
Yeah, live yesterday when we were doing the show, I checked, and it had gone from maybe 150 to 1 to 36 to 1.
Okay.
Which I mean, once again, that seems like great value. But then again, we don't know. It's a different world we live in here in 2020. We don't know if this Bucks team will start to play better. Yeah. Ski, I want to, I told the viewers out there that Tony and I both have a strong best bet for this daytime game that tips in a couple minutes. Rockets and Thunder at WagerTalk.com. Tony also has a best bet for Bucks and Magic at WagerTalk.com. Ski Profit, what do you got going on for Thursday at WagerTalk?
My best bet is on baseball. On the total, I'm 4-2 so far in baseball this
Lakers
year.
are
So
playing
that's my
baseball
best
tonight?
bet for the
You know,
day. No, I
yeah,
pay
no,
attention
I
to
did you a
baseball a little bit
disservice,
here
Ski. I
and there
said
every time.
WNBA and NBA, but you do have some baseball, and like you said, you're selective. But 67% on the season is not bad when you're being selective. And let's hope you go to 71%. 5-2 will be 71%, I believe. I'm pretty good with these short-term streaks because I've promoted them so many times over the years.
Yeah.
Rob Vino, speaking of streaks, you're on a bit of a longer-term streak. I know you were red hot last week. You had a lot of 2-0s, which I believe work out to 100%. And maybe a little choppy. Like, Tony and I were red hot too. We've gotten a little choppy the last couple of days, but we're all winning big over the last few weeks. And Rob, what do you have for Thursday night at Wager Talk?
Yeah, as far as NBA is concerned, Steve, I'm in with 3 plays in the NBA today. So certainly we're coming back strong here. Yesterday, and believe me, anybody who knows me, I'm humble as can be, but I don't remember the last 0-2 I took in the NBA until last night. And the 2 that I took were not close. The Clippers were never in it. The Sixers were never in it. So hopefully you get that out of your system and come back, because I had posted on Twitter earlier this morning. I didn't realize how much the plays I was on hated my bankroll, but they hated it yesterday. So we'll try and rebuild it here today. Real quick, to any of you 3, anybody got definitive word on Aaron Gordon in that game tonight? Yeah, I keep seeing questionable. I haven't seen on the floor, off the floor. I don't know what to make of Aaron Gordon.
I'll check now.
I don't have definitive word on Gordon. I just know that the Gordon I'm interested in is probably playing in the next game.
It's on the Rockets.
He's out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he out really? Okay. Dave, thank you, Dave.
Yeah, Dave and Ski, both. Thank you. That's what's great about the live viewers, guys. We all have information, but these viewers in the chat are pretty sharp as well, and we appreciate everybody watching live. We're over 200 viewers right now, by the way, live. And once again, set your schedule. 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, Monday through Friday. We do NBA tip-off. Just a reminder, the baseball show's on right before us. That has a huge following as well at 2 Eastern. And then the bonus episodes this week. And if you're looking for some Saturday and Sunday information, and Rob, you're going to be with us this weekend as well, I saw. And Tony and I will be on as well. Saturday and Sunday, a special time, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for MLB First Pitch.
Oh, I thought you were talking about this show. I was going to say, that's news to me.
No, yeah, we don't have the NBA. We probably should do a weekend show, actually. I think the baseball works well, as you guys know, because there's so many early games on Sunday. We do that show at noon Eastern Sunday. Games come off right after that. I mean, we've had 1,000 viewers like in the first hour. It's just been fantastic. We had like 300 to 500 live, I think, last weekend. So it's been nice.
I think we need a little admission charge there on that.
Well, it's also important we do the baseball show, guys, because mid-major Matt Josephs is, of course, a loyal viewer here at the NBA show, is the host, and we have to make sure he's still with us by the weekend and that he's able to do the show. So,
you say he might jump?
He's day by day. Let's put it that way. He's day by day
I'll go put a checkpoint on the Ben Franklin Bridge for you, Steve. Make sure Matt's not one of the ones jumping off, because they're lined up there right now to leap. Believe me, if the Flyers go down, they'll all leap.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
What a day yesterday was. Yeah.
Yeah, the Flyers, they're hanging on to the Flyers, the 1 seed, I guess, is their hope. And then maybe we'll see what the Eagles can do. But, yeah, look, how could they expect it too much from the Sixers? They've been so bad for so long. I know they had some hope this year, but take it with a grain of salt, right? We'll see what happens.
They trusted the process.
They did.
We all love the Prez, and he won't mind us throwing him, or mind me throwing him under the bus. But yesterday he had the Flyers, he had the Sixers, and he had the Phillies. That's the only 3 games he had. And I said, he goes, I hate Philadelphia.
He overexposed his bankroll to one city, which you should never do, right? Even though one of them's in the bubble. So, guys, I can't wait to get to this last game, and I have to start with Ski, and we'll probably finish up with Ski after you go around because he'll want to chime back in. But let's look at Lakers and Blazers, Ski. As I mentioned, the Lakers bit me the other night. I'm on a 14-5 run. My last 2 losses in the NBA have both been LA teams. I had the Clippers last night as well. So the city of brotherly love might be Philadelphia, and LA has not been a lovely city for me the last couple of days. Ski, what is your take on your Lakers? I could definitely call them your Lakers, as you are loyal. I know Rob likes the Sixers. He just won't admit it. But we're going to go with the LA and Portland game to you first, Ski. Same line as last week. Both of them opened 5.5. They both have gone to 6.5. I kind of like the Lakers tonight, but then again, it does concern me that they came out so flat. Guys, do we take anything away from the Bucks? If the Bucks come out and win by 40 tonight, do we like the Lakers more? I mean, as silly as that might sound, what do you think, Ski?
No, I don't correlate the two. But I'll say that Portland is a team that always plays well early, like in the first quarter and in the first half, and then they don't really play so well as they did in the first half and the second half. If you want to look at like point differential type numbers, and for the Lakers, I would wait to see honestly how they come out, what starting lineup they come out with, because that's going to tell you how the game's going to go right there. If they start with Anthony Davis at center and Kuzma starting, I think Lakers do whatever they want. I think Lakers win by the margin. If they don't, probably be a tight game. If I were to make a play before the game, I would probably do a player prop and just expect Kuzma to reach his point total over 13.5.
Nice. I like it. A player prop there with Kuzma. And I know you mentioned yesterday you won Anthony Davis at center. And back when I started 25 years ago, Rob Vino, 7-footers played center. I'm not sure what's changed.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit different nowadays, right? I mean, we see Brook Lopez floating around the 3-point line every possession for Milwaukee, another 7-footer. So certainly the stretch 4 has led to stretch centers in some cases. But let me just go over a few things here, guys, real quick. The way the game played out the other night was disappointing if you're a Laker fan, in the fact that I think it was between maybe 4 and 6 minutes left in the game. 4 consecutive possessions, or maybe 4 out of 5, the Lakers offensively, Anthony Davis missed 3-pointer. Anthony Davis missed 2-pointer around the rim. Anthony Davis missed 2 consecutive free throws. LeBron James missed 2 free throws. Those are your guys. 4 possessions in a row in a close game. They allowed Portland to take the lead. They allowed Portland to stretch the lead. The rest of the cast is what it is. But those 2 guys at clutch time, you almost get tired of hearing about the overall numbers for the game. It doesn't matter that LeBron had a triple-double. It really doesn't. If you're going to walk up in a 2-point game or a 3-point game with 4 minutes left and miss 2 free throws. They had an interesting statistic on that the other night. It's 77% for LeBron James free throw shooting in the first 3 quarters, down to 66% in the fourth quarter. It happened again the other night. I don't see, that's the beauty of a 7-game series, because it's just not going to happen every night. And for the Lakers, I'm going to go back to those numbers I was telling you guys about the other day, potential points in a game. Not only did Milwaukee and Orlando have the most potential points at 488, but Portland and the Lakers had the possibility to score 482 points the other night. But they only scored on 40% of those, which is a low number. Just to give you an average on that particular composite number, you get about 45% most games. That's about the average. 45% of those points are scored. 40 is very low. Lakers are 5 of 32 from 3. I'm sure you guys all went over it yesterday when I dropped off the face of the earth and didn't participate. But I think the Lakers, I just can't see them having a lousy offensive night one more time. I really can't. And I don't think Portland's going to have a lousy offensive night either. The second half of that game the other night was 43-37. You hold Portland to 43 points in the second half, you should win that game and win by distance. I think there's a lot of room for the Lakers to improve here offensively for sure, and I think they will.
When, I look at pace, and the numbers you're mentioning, Rob, have a lot to do with pace. Obviously, when you have a lot of shot attempts, more potential points. One thing you always have to be careful with, though, as you know, Rob, was when there's a lot of missed shots, you get technically more shot attempts because, they're getting rebound. If they're hitting 100% of their shots, there's less second shot attempts, even though they're scoring more points. And that's what happened with the Bucks, as you said. They shot, 43%. But, man, Tony, look at the Laker box score, 35%, yet they held the Blazers to 39. I had the Lakers minus 6.5. If you had told me that the Blazers would shoot 39% and be held to 100 points, I would have had them stronger than just a normal play. So luckily I didn't have the advanced newspaper, the box score ahead of time on that one. Game went under by 40 points. We talked about how the over-under went up like 5 points in the line move that day. So, what are your thoughts, Kenton? The Lakers have now shot 42% or worse in 5 of their 9 bubble games. I know some backups were in up for a lot of those, but, the offense is struggling.
Yeah, listen, if the Lakers win this game and they cover this game goes under the total. I do not listen. I don't believe. I'm going to put this game in one sentence: win or lose, and that is. And I went, okay, so I lied. No, one sentence. I can't do that. Never been able to do that my whole life. My situation is this, and that is, while Portland was successful last year in the postseason, went to the finals, It's essentially almost the same team. Almost. Yeah. Actually, maybe, I don't know. I like Collins. I like that group of bigs. Too bad Collins isn't playing. They won without him. But there's something about the playoffs, something about this team, this Portland team. Every team they faced in that bubble was a different team. Every time Lillard was over the top, outstanding, it was against a different team every night. And there's something to be said against good defensive teams in 7-game series. When a guy has a 50-point game, they make adjustments. They figure out what they can do to at least contain him, to slow him down. This game comes down to what they can do with Lillard. Bottom line, what they team can do to stop Lillard, whether it's blitzing him at the perimeter, or how can you blitz him and slow him down, frustrate him? It's not about LeBron. It's not about AD. Although when I watch the game, when AD, if he's not in the middle, he's not in the paint, their spacing sucks, dude. Their spacing sucks, and that's a big issue. AD needs to get in the effing paint and do what he does, and they got plenty of shooters. The Lakers got no shooters. They got to have AD out there? That's crazy. What Lillard does.
Be nice if some of them showed up.
Yeah. Well, what Lillard does tonight dictates this game. How many points?
Ski, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with what he said. Anthony Davis needs to play center and be in the paint. That's what it comes down to, because when he's in the paint, but it's him saying he doesn't want to do it. He's acting soft and just wants to play outside. When he played on the Pelicans, they were best when he was center, when he was in the paint, and Mirotic was out there on the perimeter. Then the Pelicans played good. I think that's what the Lakers need. And we're too predictable when he's power forward and we have a center down there. Then LeBron comes trying to barrel in down the lane. He's going to do the same thing every time. He's going to run into a wall and pass it out to somebody. So spacing, like Tony Finn said, sucks. It's the coach's job to put the right players in, and hopefully he does it.
Yeah, and of course, Ski, the one problem with LeBron is that there really is no head coach when he's on a team. You're
right.
So it's like it's a question: is LeBron going to tell AD to play center? I think that's what it comes down to. And the head coach for the Lakers or the Cavs back in the day, they're along for the ride basically with LeBron out there. Ski, throw out that prop again for anybody that's just joining us. I thought that was some good information you had that you like in this game.
Yeah, well, we're saying spacing sucks, and we're saying Lakers need more scoring and all of that. And where's it going to come from? If Anthony Davis is playing center, Kuzma should be starting, and Kuzma's the guy who's the third option. So I like Kuzma over 13.5 points.
13 and a half?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So in-show wager, Tony, you want the other side of it?
If you want to get some of that million, you owe me back. I don't care.
You want the under 13 and a half, Tony Finn?
I'll give you 14 or 15.
No, I want, what is it, 13 and a half?
You want lucky 13,
no,
Tony?
No, I want 13 and a half. And if
you got the under then.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under because I'm telling you right now, I'm rooting for – I can't take this depressed state that Ski's in on this program. And if Kuzma doesn't get 13 and a half points, they're probably going to lose. So he's going to be unbearable tomorrow. So come on, Kuzma.
It's worth it just for the potential unbearable Friday. I got you.
I'll bring the mezcal. We'll all do a shot here.
For those joining us for the first time, our in-show wagers are based more on vengeance and revenge than they are actual statistical data. But Ski actually likes the over in this one for real. Tony, of course.
Kyle Kuzma, guys, real quick here. Kuzma the other night had 14 points, which is over 13 and a half.
I lose.
He goes 5 of 14 from the field, barely over 33% from the field. He shoots 1 of 5 from 3.
Wow.
And he still got over 13 and a half. So, if he improves a little bit, he's going to get to 17, 18, 20.
Yeah, Ski, the only way that doesn't happen is if he plays less, I guess, right?
Right. And just to Rob's point, before that stuff happened with LeBron and Anthony Davis missing the jump shots and the free throws, Kyle Kuzma was in the game. He just scored a few points for us and had us with the lead, I think up 6 or 4. And
he was
Fred Vogel took him out the game and put Danny Green in.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Danny Green's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Danny Green.
He's
3-point specialist.
This proves my point the Lakers do not have a real head coach, as I said earlier. Just proving the point there.
I promise you guys that I can shoot better than Danny Green's been shooting. I guarantee you.
My wife can shoot better than Danny Green's been shooting. Well,
hey guys,
really well.
We got one game that tips off tomorrow. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow. We got a couple minutes left. We'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, here on NBA Tip-Off on Friday. Let's quickly, like a minute each, touch on this game for tomorrow that tips off at 1:30 Eastern on Friday. Raptors, Nets. Once again, the NBA sneaking Toronto into the early spot as they often do during the playoffs. And this is a situation where the Raptors, it looks so strange when I'm looking at the rotation, guys. You've got the Raptors, technically the road team now in the neutral court, but I still see them on top of the schedule laying 10.5. And it just jumps out to me, I can get a 10.5 point home dog, down 0-2 in a series. But of course, that's not the case. Tony, any interest in this early game tomorrow? Raptors 10.5, totals around 220.5, 221. The over-under dropped a little. The Raptors have risen a bit, I think.
Here's what I kind of like this over a little tomorrow, only based on a couple of things. I think I expect. When was the last time you saw Marc Gasol score 0 points? This Raptors team won despite some performances, some subpar performances from a couple guys who typically contribute, and the Nets really they led for 3 quarters. Couldn't close it out. Why? Because they don't have that DNA. They don't have that pedigree. And the one thing Toronto has, albeit not years and years, it's fresh. It's fresh, and this team is the team to beat. They're not. I said this yesterday about the Clippers. The Raptors aren't going to lose a game in the series, which pretty much jinxed them right now.
Yeah, Ski. Obviously, when we were doing the show live yesterday, the Nets were up fairly big at one point. And by the time we were off the air, they were down by 5. They lost by, I believe, 5 or so. The Nets got the cover, but they're down 0-2. Do you trust them to bring any energy here after blowing that lead yesterday?
Usually I would say yes, but I don't know. I feel like their heart is gone now. And I know Joe Harris left the bubble. Yeah. I just don't think we're going to see that same fight that we saw the first game or two from Brooklyn again. And the Raptors, they look like they mean business. They look like they want to get it over with. I feel like the Raptors' first half is probably a good angle.
Interesting.
And I think if you like the over, I think you want to play it earlier than not, because I want to say Toronto plays a lot better defense in the fourth quarter. I'm not sure, but that's just what I think.
Well, it makes sense also, Ski. If the Nets come with a hangover, which I think is very possible after blowing their chance in Game 2, you could see it getting ugly early in the game. And, of course, we'd have less points in the second half in the fourth quarter, specifically if it's a blowout like it was in Game 1. Rob, my gut tells me, like Ski said, we got a guy leaving the bubble in Harris. I said before the playoffs started that there would be some teams that would toss the towel as opposed to having that Game 3 home court bounce back. There's some teams that maybe just give up. I don't think they're necessarily giving up, but it's hard to imagine they're going to have the same motivation after blowing a chance to win Game 2. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, I think they'll continue to play hard, Steve, because under Jacques Vaughn, that's what they do. But whether or not they have the horses to compete the way they competed yesterday one more time, Ski took it earlier from me because he went first, but I would ride right with what he said, that first half Toronto. While we sat here today and we guessed, how will Milwaukee respond? How will the Lakers respond? Toronto was caught up in a tough game yesterday, a chance to lose. They turned on the defense. Tony said it's their DNA. It is. Defensively, the last 6 minutes of that game, if you watch, Nets only scored 19 points in the fourth. You don't have to guess at how Toronto's going to come out from the opening jump tomorrow. They're going to come ready to play. And first half price is going to be a lot cheaper than game price. And Toronto could open up a huge double-digit lead right away. I think that that would be a real good way to go.
They're so much longer, Steve, guys. They're so much longer than it's such a poor matchup for the Nets. It really is.
And by the way, guys, I just pulled up the numbers now. I'll pop them up here. First half Raptors there are some 5s, but there's still some -4.5s out there. So you're actually getting them for less than the full game price, which makes no sense to me. So Ski and Rob,
they're priced like the road team.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about a 10.5 point line, and they're only a 4.5 point first half favorite. It makes absolutely no sense. I think if anything, the momentum from Toronto's comeback carries into the first half, and the Nets come out flat maybe. But the total, as you see those guys, is definitely higher because, once again, full game, 220.5. First half, 113.5. So they're talking about maybe a pull away in the second half. So that the Raptors should be a bigger first half favorite if the total's bigger. That's telling you something right there. It's interesting. So for those viewers that are watching us here on Thursday, once again, this game tips tomorrow and Friday at 1:30 Eastern before we come on the air. Ski and Rob bring up excellent points about if you're looking at the Raptors, maybe consider them in the first half -4.5 versus the game line of 10.5. And Ski said if you're going to play the over, probably look at the first half as well because they might start, sitting some guys or pulling off the horses in the second half. Hey, guys, great show. We'll be back tomorrow on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific for more NBA tip-off right here, as always, on WagerTalk TV. And once again, don't forget to go to WagerTalk.com. Ski's got a baseball best bet, a rare baseball best bet. He's 67% on the season. Tony Finn's got some best bets. Rob's got 3 basketball best bets overall for Thursday. I've got a strong baseball best bet tonight. Also a free play, by the way. Don't forget, there's a lot of free information at WagerTalk.com. So, guys, great show as always. Thanks for joining me. We'll be back tomorrow on Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern.